Welcome to Not Another United podcast, where three passionate Reds try and dissect everything around Manchester United. I'm Bhupinder, and with me are my friends Sidharth and Tushar, and collectively, we have spent far more money on United jerseys than Glazers have spent on Old Trafford. Gentlemen, lovely to meet you today. How was this weekend?
It's clear from our faces, right? It's not been a good. But before we dive into that, do you want to just mention how our podcast is split into the three sections and stuff, right? You can.
एक मिनट
कोई नहीं अभी वो कट कट
हम
जाएगा
कर
बाद में,
सकते हैं
कोई लोड नहीं
किसी को
है।
थोड़ा एफर्ट मारना पड़ेगा
ये एक
बट
सेकंड
आई थिंक
एक
ये
मिनट
अच्छा ऐसा करते हैं, मैं इसको स्टॉप करता हूँ रिकॉर्डिंग को। स्टार्ट एकदम
हाँ
बढ़िया थी। तू तूने जो जर्सी वाला पॉइंट बोला उसके बाद सीधा बस उसमें चले जा कि आर पॉडकास्ट विल
व्हाट
बी।
इज दिस पॉडकास्ट अबाउट ना हाँ फेयर फेयर फेयर
मैं
जैसे
टेक ओवर कर
जो
लूंगा।
बोलो
अगर यहाँ पर लग रहा है कि
Welcome to Not Another United podcast, where three passionate Reds will try and dissect everything that's in and around the world of Manchester United from our living rooms. I'm Bhupinder, and with me are my friends Sidharth and Tushar, and together we have spent far more money on our jerseys than probably what Glazers spent on fixing Old Trafford. And what's unique about this podcast? We have split this podcast into three different sections, which you will learn a little more once you hear this podcast later on. Three zones are three sections are the theater, the red zone, and Fergie time. Before we proceed, how was the weekend?
was excellent. Sunday was gloomy, dark. Other than that, just the usual
Talk
week supporting United.
talk about starting things on a good note, right? I mean, of course, the elephant in the room, we lost 3-0 to City. And of course, Sid and Bhuppi, why don't you delve deeper into your take was on the match? Do you feel it was deserving? Could we have done anything better? Is it a fair scoreline?
I'll let teams.
Sid, I think there are some. Yeah, now you're
Yeah,
audible.
so
Could
I
Sorry,
hear
some
you.
so
connection issue.
it was an underwhelming match. Two star players, Donnarumma and Haaland.
Sid, your voice has.
Hello.
Oh, it's
Okay.
fine.
Am I audible?
So, as we enter section one, we call it the theater. Why don't we start off with how the weekend was? So, give us your debrief on the 3-0 loss to City over the weekend. Was it deserving? Was it a fair scoreline? Could we have done anything better? And we'll end this section with if at all there were any positives from the game. Sid, why don't you start us off?
Am I audible?
Now you are.
The weekend was good, barring the awful result.
Guys, recording stop करनी पड़ेगी.
सिड तेरा कोई
Yeah,
और ईयरफोन Welcome to Not Another United podcast, where three passionate Reds try and dissect everything around Manchester United, all from our living rooms. I'm Bhupinder, and with me are my friends Tushar and Sidharth. And together, we have spent far more money on our jerseys than probably what Glazers have spent on fixing Old Trafford. Gentlemen, lovely to have you here. And before we dive in into all things United, I just want to take a moment and explain our process, what is going to make this podcast a little unique. So, unlike other podcasts, here we have different sections where we try and dissect things from the lens of a fan, lens of passionate supporters. So there are opinions that you might feel are very different to yours. That's expected, pardon us. But yeah, that's one part of the podcast. So our podcast is split into the theater, the red zone, and Fergie time. Three interesting sections, which you will learn a lot more as we progress. But before that, how was the weekend, gentlemen? How was the game? How did it go?
इस हंसी के पीछे बहुत दर्द छुपा है and as cliched as it sounds, that's true. Last 3-4 weeks, I have experienced. kick back to realities.
Internet, internet issue, not the headphones. A second, I'll stop this. Starting from scratch, right?
Welcome to Not Another United podcast, where three passionate Reds try and dissect everything in the world of Manchester United, all from our living rooms. I'm Bhupinder, and with me are my friends Sidharth and Tushar. And collectively, we have spent far more money on our jerseys than what Glazers have spent on perhaps fixing Old Trafford. Just a quick precursor to this podcast. Our podcast is split into three sections: the theatre, the red zone, and an ode to the great man. Gentlemen, how was the weekend?
So horrible, horrible.
Welcome to Not Another United podcast, where three passionate Reds dissect everything around the Manchester United, all from our living rooms. I'm Bhupinder. With me are my friends Tushar and Siddharth. And collectively, we have spent far more money on buying Manchester United jerseys than probably what Glazers have spent on fixing Old Trafford. Now, what's interesting about this podcast is that we have three sections: the theatre, the red zone, and Fergie time. But before we delve into all of them, a quick question to gentlemen here. How was the weekend? How was the game? How did it all go?
Horrible, horrible. Awful weekend because of the result.
But India जीत गया convincingly.
I did not watch
Some
that
positive
match,
if
but
you're Indian.
obviously it was always a one-sided match in Pakistan with the current crop of players. सारे youngsters थे तो हमेशा से one-sided match था. That's a
Hope,
different conversation.
hope you're on the right
let's
podcast.
let's get back.
Yeah, dissecting all things Manchester United, we start with India Pakistan. Sorry, guys.
Clearly,
Sentiment.
yeah, jerseys should be a clue.
For me, it was a most terrible couple of days. Sunday, Monday, highs and lows, right, in the last three. As if we are stuck in Groundhog Day, same rinse and repeat. So I'm now sick and tired of it. But I mean, let's hope there's end in sight soon. And I don't mean Amarim sacking. That's not the end I hope for. I mean us getting back to winning ways is my end in sight.
Any positives from our 3-0 Derby defeat over the weekend? Any positives at all? Or was it all doom?
I need some time. I can hardly think of any positives.
Yeah,
तू बोल फिर मैं जोड़ता हूँ.
so there were, if I have to put them in, for one, Binder didn't make any mistakes. I mean, that's not a very big positive, but an honest positive is Kobe Mainoo's performance. He came on for about 20 minutes or so, a little more, maybe
28.
28 minutes. He was very bright. It baffled me कि मतलब, how is he not starting ahead of an Ugarte? Ugarte was prone to mistakes. His first half was far better than his other performances for the club. Kobe was really bright, sparks of very good moments across the game. Bomo was phenomenal. But this is the issue na, with United. We relied too much on individual brilliance. We're not looking at it as a collective. Ki, matlab, as a team, are we there? Do we have a fluid style of football? At this moment, that's a question I still had. We always rely on individual moments. If you remember that brilliant volley from Rashford, where we scored against City, that's the same pattern we've been following,
Also,
unfortunately.
those moments are not with us either, at least this season. Where are those moments? I mean, the
I think
results
we are
speak
very
for
young
themselves,
into the
right?
season. We are only 4 matches into the season, so
But
it's not as
still,
if we are 15 matches down. Moments inevitably will come with or without Amarin. The point is, are we, you know, तूने positives पूछे, there were so few positives.
Welcome to Not Another United podcast, where a few passionate Reds dissect everything in the world of Manchester United from our lenses, all from our living rooms. I'm Bhupinder, and with me is my friend Tushar. We've spent far more money on buying Manchester United jerseys than what Glazers have spent on fixing Old Trafford. A quick precursor about this podcast: we have split this into three sections. One is called the theater, the second is the red zone, and the third is an ode to the great man, the Fergie time. Uh, what are these sections? You will learn is a lot of exciting content and conversations we're going to have. How was the weekend? What did you think of the game?
The first section is the theater, right? That is where we begin with a 3-0 defeat over the weekend. It was very painful. I'd let you take the lead here because you know why. Like I've watched whatever I could of the match. I've seen the highlights, podcasts, pundits, whatever they had to say, and it's all it seems like all doom and gloom with where we stand in the season. So what was your take on the match overall? And we will close this with if at all there were any positives. I hope we are able to extend that section, but yeah, still let's give it a try.
Very hard to explain what went through in the game. I think it's a fair scoreline. It reflected the result well. The key difference, hands down, were the world class players of Man City. It's painful to say it, but they did have world class performances. They did turn up on the derby. Shout out to Haaland and Donnarumma. They were brilliant. Haaland bullied our defense. He scored goals which were fair. Surprisingly, he missed a chance for a hat trick. And had that gone in, I wouldn't have been surprised. It's also that Murphy's law when things are going south, it just keeps going further.
He was a part of my fantasy team, so the weekend wasn't too bad.
Was he your captain?
I play with three teams. In one team, I had captain Salah. In another, captain Mateta. And I had captain Semenyo as well. Imagine that.
Nice.
Only in the last second, I thought, why should I go against Salah? And I changed it back to Salah. I regretted when Semenyo had a 13-pointer. But thankfully, Salah delivered. From what I have seen of the derby, I think 3-0 was a deserving scoreline. They could have scored more because the chances they missed, they weren't even half chances. They were clear cut, proper, almost empty goal chances, like that Haaland one. And there were a couple of others as well. They were through on goal a few times. And the vice versa it wasn't true at all from what I saw. For you, were there any positives? The only positive I can see is that nobody got injured. Nobody got suspended. Nobody got a red card.
I
What
think
about you?
I think the positive. This has been the story of Manchester United for the past couple of years, even under Eric Ten Hag. We rely a lot on individual brilliance. We had some brilliant moments in the game. There was a beautiful volley that Mbomo took, and that was a very good save by Donnarumma. Something you expect by a keeper of his class. You do expect him to save it, but that wasn't easy. Beautiful technique by Mbomo. Sparks by Kobe Mino. Very fluid football. A couple of decent moves from him once he came on, which begs the question, right? How is he not starting ahead of Ogate? So that was another point. Barring those two, we again didn't make any mistakes. So that's another positive.
And we are going to cover menus in a separate section. Everybody who's tuned in, please watch out. And yeah, I think Donnarumma's save got highlighted a bit more because of the relative difference, right? Because of what we are used to this season. And that is why it got, maybe for Donnarumma, it was a very, very good save. But for us, it was an exceptional save because of the mediocrity we've gotten used to.
Yeah. I mean,
So
he could be a difference in their season. Very.
the first thing I would think of, why didn't we get him? But of course, that's reactionary. Grass is always greener.
Yep.
But the jury is still out. We've signed a young keeper with potential from the Belgian league.
It might not exude a lot of confidence at this moment, but he is also a good shot stopper. He has been touted very highly, even rated by one of the other best keepers of the world, Thibaut Courtois. So his own countryman has called him out as one of the players to watch out for in the coming years. So yes, we signed him for the future, and given changes in our wage structure, we didn't want to pay that high.
Exactly. Like we've signed him for the future. I can't be happy with that because we've lost many points till now. Arsenal's loss was on the keeper. Fulham's draw potentially on the keeper as well. Of course, there was a role to play. Burnley as well, we conceded. Grimsby, I mean, the less we talk about it, the better.
But you're right. It's an important role. Keeper has to potentially save points, which hasn't been the case at United, at least from last year. We know how many mistakes Onana was susceptible for to. He made a lot of them last year. And he apparently had a great game on his debut for
Yeah,
Trabzonspor.
yeah, yeah. He played against Edison, right?
Another derby game.
I think to sum this section up, I didn't see any positives from the match. Silver linings and Mbumo, yes. Did we supply enough? Did we really put him in positions where he could threaten the goal a bit more. Not too sure. And I think our next section is the red zone, full of bold takes, unpopular opinions, a little bit of controversy here and there. And in the now, whatever is happening at United, whatever is trending, so we cover that. The first thing I want to ask you, possibly the most important question of this podcast, are you Amorim in or out, and why? Try to be brief because we would like this to be a genuine answer. So, whatever is the first instinct that comes to your mind.
Among all the managers we've had post Fergie, right? There were some personalities. I loved Mourinho simply because of the personality he was. Louis Van Gaal was a personality. Eric Ten Hag didn't carry that. Ole was a nice guy personality. You know, he was called the baby-faced assassin back in the day. So he was someone who you wanted him to succeed. With Ruben, he has the aura in how he presents himself to the press, speaks beautifully. He's a handsome man as well, carries himself very well. Uh, and more than anything, I love the clarity of thought he has.
I was waiting
I
Amorim
still,
in.
I still want him to succeed. I still want him to succeed. That's
Is it more hope than objectiveness, perhaps?
I want him to succeed, obviously, for the club, also because we have changed so many managers for a very long time. But I do want him to also change his ways a bit because if it's important he adapts to the league. I don't think every league has the same format, right? No competition has to be taken the same way. You can't earlier you wouldn't win a Champions League only relying on league form, right? Obviously, league plays a massive role, but a knockout is a knockout. Earlier, we had the away goal rule. Your strategy had to change from away games to home games. There's a lot of permutation, combination, a lot of things behind it. But the point being, he has to adapt. Change is the only constant. They say it for a reason. And a lot of players in our current setup are not used to them. A lot of the positions that they're being made to play, it doesn't come naturally to them. So that's my biggest concern. So, you see the kind of quality we have. I'm sure the same players could play better in a different system. I'm in, but I would love for him to somehow make that little change, small adaptations. Maybe that could help us in on the long run.
But let's assume he doesn't, right? He's
Yeah.
brutally honest, perhaps a little too honest for his liking. And he never shies away from answering even the trickiest of questions out there. One thing he's been adamant about ever since he came in was that he's not going to change. If you believe that to be true, would you still be Amorim?
Still want him to succeed. So I am still Ammerman. Also because we will have to pay 12 million is this is what I just read. In terms of compensation, and we have already burnt a lot of money. I'm still Ammerman because of the work he's done at Sporting. I want to give him another transfer window, but he's just going to make it more difficult if the results go on the way they are.
I think I'll also pitch in. So I've been trying to like ask myself this question, right? It's not a straightforward. There is no objective, practical reason to it. Everything points to the contrary, in fact, if I start dissecting it with my left brain, right? But
Mhm.
I feel it has to work. There is no other way. It's more hope than reason. That's it. It's been so long in this space anyway. At least we have the structure and people to make the right decision. I'm not even concerned about the compensation really because we made good money, especially in this window. I think this is the second biggest elephant in the room. You hear this in every post-match conference, settling the formation and system debate for United's current season, right? Which side are you tilting towards? Like, do you feel this should even be a debate? Is it because of the formation? If you could just in briefs mention a yes or no, then give your take why.
I do feel it is a formation. Uh, you are expecting a lot of your players to play out of position. It doesn't come naturally to all of them. Even we are amateur footballers. When you look at our own minimal football, we have been playing a certain position in our domestic leagues. We've played that far longer. If you remove one player from that position and put them into another, which is not their comfort zone, it changes a lot of these are players who have played that particular position at club levels, at international levels. Now I'll give you examples of the players, right? You are expecting someone like say Diogo Dalo or Patrick Dorgu, right? Primitive left backs, right backs. Now you want them to play wing backs in the 3-4-3 setup, and they have to play like wingers. They obviously lack a lot of talent compared to many other players out there, decent players. My assumption is they would play better in a position more naturally suited to them. If you look at a three-man defense at the center, typically with a two-man defense, you are speaking to each other. The three-man, I'm not sure who's commanding that line. Or Bruno, who has been our highest chance creator. Even this season, he's created the highest chances. But he is the person who we expect goals from. His only goal this season is from a penalty. He's so dangerous in the final third. He's so dangerous in the attacking half. Why are we sort of making him play in midfield too? Which, if you see, he's playing far more behind, like a deep lying playmaker. I would like to see him in a little more advanced role because that would open up more potential chances for our forwards. I haven't seen us create too many chances for Shesko yet. He's hardly played, but we will need to have our best players playing in their positions which are natural to them. So I do feel a lot of it is down to the formation. Change is the only constant.
I beg to differ a little. It's not a straightforward answer. There is no one answer, perhaps. Brighter minds than us who've been in the game longer have tried answering this question too. Everything is interconnected, right? There are multiple parallels. Even the smallest thing does have an impact on how a club functions, right? But from my standpoint, I feel it has a role to play, but I don't think it should be as big a debate as it is right now. For they've had plenty of time under this new manager to adapt to how he wants to play. Just like you mentioned, you have to adapt, right? That's true for players as well. And these are not semi-professional players. We are talking about players who are getting paid the kind of wages that they're getting paid to learn a new system, which is not alien in the football world anyway. It's not like how, let's say, tiki-taka was introduced for the first time or a three-man defense was introduced for the first time ever in football. That's not the case. Some of these players have had an experience of three at the back football, maybe with their international teams, maybe with their previous clubs, or they've played against teams who've done that. Like Conte, for example, was famous for bringing that in the Premier League, right? Considering the preseason, the amount of time they've had last season, you could excuse that we had matches left, right, and center. There was no time to adapt. You could write that off. But right now, they've had enough time. Also, if I look at our performances against Arsenal, we didn't feel that formation is an issue. If we could be a little more clinical, we would have sat there with a first game week 1 victory against Fulham. The first few minutes were enough for us to win. Cunha had multiple chances. We missed the penalty. Finishing a penalty is part of finishing. And it wasn't as if it was a close penalty that was missed or it hit the post. Both of us saw where it went. Then Burnley, we scrapped through a victory against a not so great Burnley. Grimsby, you could have write-offs, bad days. It was about them wanting to win more than us. We touched upon this in one of our previous conversations. Even our academy team should beat them without a manager, without any formation, with due respect to Grimsby and wherever they are. So hence, I don't feel it should be that big a debate. Now, I mean, we're moving from one draft topic to another. I think I hope we get a pause soon, but I just had to ask you this. So, 31 matches under Ruben Amorim, 8 victories, 17th in the league since Ruben Amorim's first match, essentially relegation battle. What percentage blame will you give to him and the players, and why?
I give players more blame here. Maybe 65% players, 35% Amarim. There's a reason why I also spoke about change. So there was this interview that with Pep Guardiola just before the Manchester derby. They asked him the same question that, how much are you rigid when it comes to a certain system? And does it depend a lot on players as well? So he sort of, I think, I'm obviously not calling it out verbatim, but the essence of what he said, adaptability has to happen on both sides. As a manager, the crop of players you are sort of best out, the players you get, you have to understand them, analyze them, and obviously you have to try and marry them into your system. There is a belief system that every manager has. Amarim is stronger in his belief. He's certain that he believes in it. My point is that, I feel until he has all the kind of players who would necessitate in the better gameplay in this formation, it's important to adapt. So that is just, I know I'm sort of sidetracking here, but just thought I'll bring this in. Uh, I do feel a lot of blame has to go back to the players. A lot of it is also mentality issue. One of the things that I loved about the yesteryear's United teams, right? You always had leaders across positions.
Yeah.
You had a leader in the best of keepers, probably in the Premier League era, Peter Schmeichel, phenomenal leader. You didn't have to give him a captain's armband. He was just so motivated to play for the club and play for his position, play to win, most importantly. You then go a little further ahead in defense. You always had characters. For a brief period, you had Yapstam. Many years down the line, people who remember the recency bias, just before the last decade, we had Neymar Ferdinand, we had Gary Neville. Three out of the four defenders have captained Manchester United for
Even
the
in his later
Andres Evra
years.
also forgot.
Yeah.
Yes, he was also captain. The entire defense line has actually captained the club, and they've captained them to trophies. It's not that they weren't successful. You go further up the line, right? Now in a midfield, you had a Roy Keane. What a character he was. Probably the best captain that I've seen in as a fan of Manchester United. You again had some brilliant players, captain Zamban, to show their leadership. You had a Ronaldo who would lead from the front. You had characters like him. You had Paul Scholes. What a midfielder. You had those players who carry themselves well and they pulled, kept shouting at each other. And even this derby, right? It felt so mellow. There was no tackle. I don't recall any yellow card. This is very
Yeah, there was
rare.
zero yellow cards in the game. Roy Keane had a like. Did you manage to watch his post-match debrief? He said the exact same thing. He pointed out that you're talking about a derby game, you're talking about intensity, you're talking about what is on the line, and there's not even a
Yeah.
tackle that's a heavy tackle that's going in. There's no yellow cards whatsoever, and I think it's a first for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of the players got a yellow card from both teams, but of course we were on the losing side. So you're sticking with your 65-35 in the
Yeah,
in
compare
terms
this
of
to
your.
the city's team. Had leaders across positions. When I used to play my little football, whatever I played, right? In the defense line, I would be leading, or somebody else would be leading that entire defense line. We would shout at each other. We would ensure that we are focused. I do not see that with the current United team. I do not see too much of shouting at each other, and I don't see them motivating each other. Yes, there is a Bruno in the center, in the midfield, but there's only little that he can do. We need leaders to play, and that is one of my concerns with this United team. We do not have enough leaders.
So at my end, fundamentally, I think there's another layer in my head. It's the players, the manager, and the leadership, right? So, like, ideally, I would have liked to divide this like 33, 33, 33 across all three, because whenever you lose a pitch, it's not just one person. You win as a team, you lose as a team, and everybody's involved. The leadership is equally culpable because it is about the structures they set, the culture they set, the type of players they're bringing, even the type of manager they're bringing. Ideally, I would keep all of them as equals, but something inside me is tilting towards blaming the players. If it was just between the players and Amorim, I would still say it's 55-45, a huge chunk of it, because everything that the players do once they're out of the pitch, it's their doing completely, right? The manager cannot affect the game as much, but everything around that is the manager, the team he chooses. I think he's been found wanting. There have been too many instances where I've seen the team and I felt like that should not have been our best 11 at all. And I could it's not, I mean, I could count on one hand this season itself, the number of times I felt that. It's about the substitutions as well. Who is he bringing in? I see a lot of defenders put in when we are falling behind. You mentioned Menu. Sheshko has not been put on sooner or started games more. This current City team playing with Bruno for the first time. Did we need that experiment when we've been crying for Menu to get more minutes? You've been stuck with Casemiro and Bruno for some reason. Amorim, I think, has a lot to blame too. This
And
team,
this is a winnable against a winnable City team on
yeah, yeah.
paper. This is not the most dangerous City team if you look at last year or the year before that. Right? Last 2, 3 years, this was probably
But
the win.
this has been mirrored by many people out there. If we were City fans, what we would be saying about this United team, that this is perhaps the most winnable United. I mean, perhaps one of the weaker United teams we've ever faced, especially given both teams are playing the same
Yeah,
game,
yeah.
right? The positivity is the hope. Andy Mitten put a poll on Twitter about who everybody thinks is going to win this derby before the match happened, and about 73% of his following suggested that United is going to win the game. Of course, it mirrored the overall narrative wherein United fans felt that yes, City are there for the taking and we would come out with a positive result here. And I too felt it would either be a draw or us winning. Last
It
weekend
was
was
an off
pretty
day.
different, wasn't it? Now, I think we've mentioned Menu a few times. It's time we give him his due and his whole section independently. So, why are Menu's minutes this season a big cause for concern? Across four matches, he's played for 73 minutes in total, out of which he did not feature in two matches altogether. He didn't come off the bench. He played 45 minutes against Burnley and 28 minutes against City. And it's not as if we've had four victories where we could say it's fine, he's still young. And it's not as if our midfield has been all sunshine and rainbows. We've practically lost the midfield battle in at least three of the four matches, possibly not against Arsenal. Uh,
Surprisingly.
what's your take? Is it a big concern? What do you feel about this?
If we were playing a midfield of three, you would see him start. A lot of it is down to the formation. What Bruno is being made to play like a number six, a deep lying playmaker of sorts. He is falling back, tracking back, and he's all his chances are being created far behind. He's always outside the box. He's playing as one of the midfielders, and he has this tendency to go a little attacking on a lot of occasions. He is one of those few players who can progress with the ball very well. He's a ball carrier. He has that knack. Cunha has that knack beautifully. Cunha does that far more than many other players that we have seen over the last few years. Rashford used to do it in phases, extremely inconsistent. That's an old story. Mbomo has that potential. Ahmad has that potential. Mainu has that same potential. He's a beautiful ball carrier. He can progress and play beautiful attacking football. The problem, we do not have that single cover and anchor for midfield, which is why we were looking for someone like a Baleba who could sort of sit back, be a little bit of that shield for the defense, and ensure attackers can go further up, play more naturally, be more expressive, and create chances. That was one of the reasons why we look for a Baleba. The challenge with Mino, which if you know what we have noticed also, he's not that strong physically. He is a guy who can be pushed through, but that's not he physical being playing physical is not really his strength. That's not an attribute that he is known for. He is a beautiful dribbler. He can pass the ball fairly well. He's got great vision, but those are probably traits that you're not looking for in that little position that Amorim is looking for, and which is why you see a Casemiro starting because he brings in some form of solidarity or anchorship for the defense in whatever little his legs have to offer today. He's been all right, not bad over the last 6 months. Ugarte was a surprise for me. I would still start a Casemiro and a Bruno if that's the midfield two. If I have to play a midfield two, but in a utopian world, I wouldn't have Bruno anywhere in that midfield. I'll play him in an advanced role because he's more dangerous there. And in my midfield, I could have a Mino and a Casemiro. For me, that would be more interesting. I would love for him to play. He has been underutilized. He got selected for England, right? It's important he gets his minutes, otherwise, he won't be featuring anywhere near the England lineup.
It's a big cause for concern, and there are multiple reasons why. You don't put transfer requests in if everything's fine, right? And that becoming official because it wasn't just tier two, tier three sources. Everybody knew Menu wants out. Even towards the end, when Amorim said that he's going to stay, he still was looking for a loan, even on the last day. That itself is telling. If you would have told us when he burst through the scenes, came on as a substitute, then started all matches with us, played how he played, scored some goals. I think I can remember that Wolves winner, right? Towards the end at Molineux. And then to have made the England squad, another milestone. Who would have thunk it? Maybe he was 18 back then. In the initial matches, he didn't play. England was struggling with midfield issues. And then he started and then he never looked back. It was like he's gaining all these levels so quickly, and he started the Euro final. And ever since that, I think it's been a downward spiral. There were multiple reasons. There were some injuries as well, but it's a big cause for concern for sure. I don't know about who fits the Amor system the best, but it's clear that none of the three fit like a glove, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be looking
Yeah.
at Baleba and spending
It's
100,
not, yeah.
yeah, 100 plus on a midfielder. But whatever we have, and maybe beggars cannot be choosers, I refuse to believe that Menu is number four out of Bruno, Casemiro, Ugarte, and Menu in our midfield. Okay, you're trying to mentor somebody, not set the precedent that everybody will get minutes. You have to fight for your position. Everybody knows that. But to not play him in two matches at all, they've not been victories either. He didn't play against Arsenal. He didn't play against Fulham. And we are bringing Maguire on to score. If you remember, Bruno had one of his worst games ever in a United shirt, possibly against Fulham.
Yeah.
He wasn't taken off. And it if we can see that, seasoned international world class players can see that as well. It's damning. And it also tells me more about Amorim as a manager as well, that he's not making the right calls in terms of
He
personnel.
scored for us in our last cup victory. He scored in the final. He scored a beautiful goal against Liverpool. So Mino has had beautiful moments. He has definitely proven he can perform on the big stage against the
Uh,
biggest clubs. You do want him to start much earlier when you can clearly see that the midfielder you're competing with is Ugarte. I agree with you.
and
Should be fourth
unlike
in the pecking order.
unlike Garnacho, he's not a bad egg. He's not
Yeah.
a I mean, he's not like a indisciplined player. Of course, we're not there for trainings, but you can sense these things. And everybody has scope for improvement. Like who doesn't? Like it's not as if Ugarte has had a brilliant start to the season, but still he's playing. Casemiro as well. Like we all know, he lost his legs last season. It's factual. It's in the numbers. No matter how lean somebody can get, you cannot recover your speed at this age. I mean, you just can't. There is no other way. And Amorim needs players who could literally cover every blade of grass in the midfield. Yeah, it's a massive cause for concern. Moving on to section three, which is Fergie time. This is all about conclusions, predictions, our parting thoughts. I'd like to start with, like I've been dying to ask this one. Hypothetically, what are your top reasons why Amorim is the right man for the job? And what will we miss if he isn't in the system anymore?
I think it's brutal honesty, right? He has one of the nicest things he has done. He's got rid of players who did not fit in his plans. Even when Eric Ten Hag was there, he did not give some of the players that much of a chance. We have changed the wage structure so drastically under Amorim. And even hypothetically, if he isn't there today, right? If we do replace him with somebody else, the players in the age profile, the personalities are still good. I wouldn't say they're going to compete with the top four. I do not think we are there yet. But
It's
we are
not a squad that should finish 15th.
it's not a squad that should finish 15. It's still a top 7, top 8 team. We should be able to beat the likes of Sunderland. By the way, why I'm bringing up Sunderland because that's one of the games that would be coming up a little
Yeah.
very close down the line, right? They've been phenomenal. They've played fairly well so far in their season, and they're
Yep.
obviously fighting to stay up in the league. Uh, my point is, we still have decent players, proper internationals, and you're playing for Manchester United. You do X, there is so much pressure, also obviously on the players from the fans, the media, but you're also getting paid to do that. You're also getting paid to live up to the club's badge. You should perform far better than what you've been doing. It's just basic intent.
I think Amorim is the right man for the job because he has to be. There's no other objective reason. Trust the leadership to make the right decisions. They did a goof up with the sporting director from Newcastle, Dan Ashworth. That goof happened, but I remember thinking it would have been easier to stay with him than to sack him. They made the tougher choice. It's easier to stay. I gave them their due that if you felt it wasn't working, why wait? So it showed their ruthlessness as well. So with Amorim, I feel, I mean, everything tells me to say otherwise, but he has to turn it around. His mannerism, personality, honesty, that's all secondary for me. Would I rather have a placid, boring manager who's getting results? Yes. Rather than somebody who's honest, entertaining, strong, bold. Of course, all of the other reasons would be fillers. Even getting rid of the so-called deadwood or the bomb squad, The leadership also has a role to play in all of this. And I moved away from a system where manager calls all the shots, right? Which Ten Hag used to do, right? He was the one who used to get players. He used to get players from his agency, which is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I'm glad we've moved past that. If you ask me what I'll miss the brutal honesty because I've not seen this from any manager,
Refreshing.
let alone a United manager. I know he's egoistic because he always says he cannot move away from the system. Over the past years, what have we been crying about? A manager with a system, with a set pattern of play, with an identity. Like if people used to ask us, how does United play? I couldn't answer. At least now we have that answer. Of course, we don't have the results to show for it. He's standing his ground, putting his foot down. It does not change. And he even said in his last press conference, right, that he won't change till he feels he wants to. If management wants change, they can change the man, not his gameplay. I think we've already covered what needs to change for the next match anyway, right? Like indirectly, directly, we've covered those points. I think we can perhaps end with a combined 11 for United versus Chelsea for our upcoming game this weekend. And just to clarify, we could have a combined 11 of the available players, let's say not considered players dealing with a long-term injury, but Cunha can be considered because he may be back and it's not a long-term injury anyway. And we can choose players basis on the form. And if we were given the baton of leading a combined Chelsea United 11 right now, what would we choose? So I think to start off, maybe this would be the
What's the
easiest.
formation?
Maybe another thing, formation wise, we could go with a typical 4-3-1-2 or a 4-4-2.
Keep it as a 4-4-2 because this is the Fergie type, right? And Fergie was known 4-4-2. So
Exactly.
let's
So
go.
even in my head, I was like, let's pick a keeper, four defenders, and six midfielders and attackers. To be simple.
Now that is fluid. It changes depending on the profile of players.
The
You can make it a 4-2-3-1, 4-2-4.
Even though I don't think he's a very good player, the easiest pick would be Sanchez. I think we both
Yeah.
agree, right?
Fortunately, yeah.
So in defense, I think Chelsea has options like Jarrell, Tosin, there's Chaloba, Reece James, Malo Gusto. Would you pick any of them over United's defense?
Yeah, so I would definitely have Reece James at right back. Think he's supremely talented. He is also their club captain. He's had injuries, but he can be very dangerous. The game we lost with Cucurella's header, it was it was all brilliance by Reece James, right? It was a beautiful dribble and a very neat cross. So on the right, I think it would be Reece James. What do you think? Who would be on right?
Overall defense, actually, it's a bit tricky. So on paper, Reece James any day, but I wouldn't pick him for the same reason I would never pick Luke Shaw for a squad because availability concerns. The number of matches they miss, just from an availability point of view, I would never be convinced that okay, I have this man for a month or more to play every
We
match.
are assuming he is available. The same logic with Cunha, right? So in
So
the assumed he's available.
even now, he has not been available to start all matches. That's why I was tilting towards not picking him because he's not fully fit. Otherwise, he would have played every single match. He's been coming off the bench. Sometimes not made an appearance. He's gotten selected for England though. I mean, that's a surprise. But yeah, um, I think for me, Euro would be a no-brainer. Just the first defender.
Let's look at the left and right back positions now. Like it becomes easy. You also have Malo Gusto, you have a Diogo Dalo. Yeah, you don't have too many great options. Gusto has been fairly decent though. You have Mazraoui. But yeah, if you are given the four defenders in their positions, who would you go with? I think Reece James because among the players we have, he is better than the others.
I think I'll go with Malo Gusto. And for the left back, it's a tough one. I'm tilting towards Kukurea, to be frank. He's had a very good season last season and has been consistent, good attacking returns. Dogu does not fill me with confidence. And Mazarui, is left back truly his best position or is it left centre back?
So there's one more catch here. We both have to agree about one team. So the right back
Mhm.
is still a little open. So is it Gusto or is it Reece James? I still think it is James. I want to put my hat on it.
Yeah, availability is the only thing. Definitely a better player than Gusto. We could agree on that. What about left back?
I agree with you about Kukurea. He got rewarded with a new contract this year, but then again, Chelsea has been giving out contracts for basically nuts.
Yeah,
That's
he's
that's a
been. I
different.
think he's a regular starter for Spain as well, if I'm not wrong.
He's been far better. He had this little blip when he made those comments on Haaland. He sang that song, but all in all, he has definitely been far better than what people make it up to be. It would have been close with Shaw, but he hasn't filled me with a lot of confidence post his injury, even in the Europe League final, even the last game that we played. So yeah, I think Kukurea and Reece James and Sanchez, wow, all three Chelsea players so far.
I think Euro would be our first entry into the combined 11.
I think among the defenders, yes.
And for the vacant position, we have Maguire, Delete,
You have
Martinez we cannot consider. We have Fofana, Chaloba, Tosin, Gerald Hato. Who would you pick as the last centre back?
So I have a seat. I think typically on your right centre back, Chalobah plays there a lot more for Chelsea, and he's done phenomenally well for his standards. He was almost out of the club, right? He was not in the club's picture.
Last match, Tosin played right centre back and Chaloba played left.
I would, as difficult as it is, I'm not convinced with this defense, but I think I would go with a Chaloba and a Euro. I will give you the other position if you feel someone else has a better stake at this.
Of course, we watch United matches way more than Chelsea's, right? So our sample size is, I don't know, it must be the same for both of us. The sample size is a little small when it comes to Chelsea. Like, of course, on a different day, I could have said Maguire because Maguire in a very stable back line can be a very strong asset, attacking, defense, organization. If he has especially if he has Euro to play with a fast
And
backup.
a fair run of games.
Yeah. Delit's performances this season have been pretty decent, especially relative to last seasons. I'm torn, no right answer here. I want to say United defense, but don't have the confidence. And I don't think Chelsea's defense has been too great, to be
Yeah,
honest. And they've not had a standard back four since I don't know, I mean, how long. Wesley Fofana played right back in one of the
yeah.
last matches. So I guess we could leave that
Let's go for
spot.
the United defense. Let's go with the Delict and
Yeah,
you
I agree.
a trusted partnership. You have your wing backs potentially.
Yep,
So that makes our back five.
I agree.
Now comes the two midfielders, which is a
I've put some thought into it. I only had to think of 10 seconds to get there. Enzo and Caicedo are starting for me.
wow. Because,
Sure.
so you wouldn't have a Bruno replacing either one. Who would create those chances from the attacking midfield for you? I agree with you on one of the players. Painfully would keep Caicedo. It's a close call between the two. I like Enzo and Caicedo as a partnership, but given that we are looking at a 4-4-2, we just have one more place for a midfielder. If you want, we can change it to a 4-2-3-1. In that scenario, I bring Bruno. That becomes my three midfielders, your attacking midfielder and the two central midfield positions. But if it is a 4-4-2, who do you have? I'm going with a Caicedo and a Bruno.
Who are you going to put on the wing? Like, just so it gives me a little bit
That's
more time to think about it.
that's interesting. Right wing, it would have been very close between Ahmad and Mbu. On the left, which is dicey because it's not a natural position in a 4-4-2. I want to have a Cole Palmer somewhere, right? I could probably play Cole Palmer and unfortunately maybe João Pedro forward. That's the way I would look at if it's a 4-4-2. Maybe they play ahead. On the left wing, it is still very dicey. You have Gittins who has played fairly all right
There's
for
Pedro Neto as well.
Pedro Neto, who's a natural winger of, and it comes more naturally to him.
There's
So
there's another interesting option as well, Garnacho.
Garnacho,
We don't know which side he plays for.
yeah, maybe a Neto and an Embumo in the wings if it is a 4-4-2.
So in the attack, I feel I'm spoiled for choice. I would rather just put my best players on the pitch and let them figure out. It's pretty interchangeable. Caicedo and Bruno are the two, and we have four players left to pick. Palmer for sure, Mbumo for sure, Cunha for sure. I can't see the side without Cunha. It's not a long-term injury. For the last spot, Kittens, easy out. Garnacho, not at all. Ahmad is a close. Pedro is a close. Neto, maybe, maybe not.
See, the good thing with Cunha is he can still play on the left. We could have Cunha on the left and Bumo on the right. Your forward line is Chelsea's forwards of João Pedro, who's been phenomenal uh, ever since he signed for them. And yes, Cole Palmer. That makes your team beautifully in terms of attacking football, flair, and that extra spark creativity. And you have a fairly decent midfield where one of them is a little more progressive in Bruno. There
Yeah.
is one anchor in Caicedo. So I think this is a team would put a lot of other teams to shame. It's a good combined 11.
Yeah, purely on form, Bruno doesn't deserve a place. I mean, we can, as much as, I mean, I love Bruno. He's been our best player. It's a fact since many years, but still.
This is the final lineup before the game. Predictions for the next match, which is painful.
It doesn't matter if we're playing at home anymore, home or away. I think after this, we're playing Sunderland, right? And after Sunderland, it's Brentford. Brentford away.
I think it's Brentford then Sunderland. I
Okay.
could be,
Brentford is away, right?
yeah.
Chelsea.
And I could be wrong later, whatever I remember. But yeah, on to the Chelsea game.
I hope Cunha can play a role. I'm not sure. News hasn't come out. Same for Mount. Give us a 2-1.
That's a win or a defeat for
Yeah,
us.
2-1, 2-1.
Nice, interesting. For me, I don't know why I'm inclined. I want us to win as a fan, but I want to go a little safer. I feel it might be a draw. It might be a 1-1. I hope to see Lamins play, but yeah, only time would tell. So yeah, I feel it would be a draw. Looking forward to the next game. Let's see how what changes. What does Ruben Amorim do? Do we see Kobe play? Do we see the same? Do we see him do the rights of all for all the wrongs that happened against City? But yeah, until then, we play the waiting game like every other United fan out. I think it's time we call it a wrap for
Yeah,
the day.
don't
So
forget to like, share, subscribe. And I know, like for all of you folks out there, it's just a tap of a button but for us it means a lot. Like your one click could dictate what we do. That's a wrap. It's been a pleasure. We'll be back next week for Everything United, hopefully debriefing a victory. Fingers crossed for that one. See you real soon.
till then, take care.